The lords of Westeros received the same raven on the same morning, its seal blackened with intent and authority. Jon Snow has taken the Iron Throne, not through council vote, not through inheritance, but through force. A precision strike of power that leaves no room for debate. Bran Stark is dead. The Kingsguard died defending him. The throne room is sealed, and wildfire barrels now ring the Red Keep's foundation. Tyrion Lannister reads the message 3 times in his chambers at Castle Rock, his hands trembling, not because Jon sees power, but because of what the Raven says next. The age of mercy is over. This is not a coup. This is the execution of the old world. And no one saw it coming. 6 months ago, Jon Snow killed Daenerys Targaryen to save King's Landing from her fire, and the realm called him a hero. Then they called him a prisoner, and finally, they sent him back to the Wall, exiled for the 3rd time in his life, stripped of every name he ever carried. But the Night King returned, not the one they killed at Winterfell, but the first one, the prototype the Children of the Forest created before they lost control. This time, he didn't seek to conquer the living. He wanted Jon Snow specifically. When Jon survived that encounter, when fire erupted from his bare hands and burned the Walker back into the darkness, something in him changed. He stopped asking permission. He marched south and demanded the northern armies. Sansa refused, so he imprisoned her and took them anyway, burning supply lines, executing deserters in front of their families, and carving a path to King's Landing that left the Riverlands in ash. Bran did nothing. Bran, who could see the past and the future, who sat the throne with knowledge of 1,000 lifetimes, watched Jon's descent and never intervened. That realization broke Jon completely. The understanding that Bran knew and let it happen, that he was always meant to become this. Sansa escaped imprisonment 2 weeks after Jon marched south. She sent ravens to every major house. Jon Snow is not the man you remember. He's Targaryen madness wearing a Stark face. We must remove him before he becomes what Daenerys could not. The lords believed her. That was their mistake. They assumed Jon was acting from rage, grief, or trauma. They thought he could be reasoned with, cornered, or overwhelmed by superior numbers. They didn't understand the revelation Jon carried from his encounter with the Night King. Mercy didn't stop the Walker, didn't stop Daenerys, didn't stop the lords from executing him for doing the right thing. Mercy is the luxury of the powerful, and Jon had lived powerless his entire life. Not anymore. He doesn't need to be loved. He doesn't need to be right. He needs only to be inevitable, and inevitability requires one thing: the willingness to do what others will not. Sansa raised an army of 20,000 northern houses, Vale Knights, and Riverlands lords who survived Jon's southern march. They marched on King's Landing, believing Jon commanded perhaps 5,000 fighters, wildlings, mercenaries, and Night's Watch deserters. But Jon didn't meet them with soldiers. He met them with a dragon, not Dragon, but something worse. A whisper of legend brought from Valyria. The 4th dragon egg, hatched in ice by Jon Snow's command. A creature born to conquer not by flame, but by absolute cold. Sansa's army froze in formation. 20,000 men turned to statues in minutes. The survivors fled. Sansa did not. She rode to the front line, demanding Jon face her. He did. They met in the center of the frozen battlefield. Sansa expected madness, screaming, rage, the unhinged fury of Aerys before his throat was slit. Jon was calm. "You were right," he told her. "I'm not a Stark. I never was. You reminded me of that in Winterfell's Great Hall. You made sure every lord heard it. I was trying to protect the North," she said. "You were trying to control me, like Bran, like Daenerys, like everyone who ever told me I was serving something greater than myself." Sansa's voice hardened. "So you'll burn the world instead?" Jon shook his head. "I'll freeze it. Fire destroys evidence." Ice preserves it. Every man in your army is still standing, still holding their swords, still loyal to you. They will stand for 10,000 years as a reminder. Of what? That defying me has consequences that outlast lifetimes. This is the moment Sansa realized her mistake. Jon isn't mad. Mad kings destroy impulsively, inconsistently, emotionally. Jon is building something enduring. His reign is not about love or fear but permanence. He's not trying to rule Westeros. He's trying to geologically alter it. Sansa asked the question everyone eventually asks. What happened to you beyond the wall? Jon's voice was quiet, empty. I died at Castle Black because I tried to save people who wanted me dead. I came back and did it again, and again. I killed the woman I loved to save a city that exiled me. I've been a bastard, a crow, a king, a prisoner, a kinslayer. I've been everything the world needed me to be, but it had earned me. Sansa had no answer. Jon gestured to the frozen army. The walker taught me something. Ice doesn't negotiate. It doesn't forgive. It simply is. That's what the realm needs now. Not a king. A constant. She understood. You'll be alone. I've always been alone. Sansa was executed an hour later, not burned, but frozen, preserved in ice at the Red Keep's entrance. A warning. The Reach capitulated without a battle. Highgarden's new lord saw the frozen northern army and sent a raven within the day. We bend the knee. Dawn followed. The Stormlands fractured. Half knelt, half prepared for siege. The Vale locked its gates. The Iron Islands sent a single message. We do not kneel. We do not freeze. We drown. Jon's reply was 2 words. Then drown. Tyrion, still at Casterly Rock, began to see the pattern. Jon isn't conquering through overwhelming force. He's conquering through inevitability. Every house that resists is made an example of not destroyed, but immortalized. The frozen army, Sansa's frozen corpse, these aren't acts of rage. They are monuments. Jon is building a museum of failed resistance. Every lord considering rebellion now asks, do I want my house frozen in time as a lesson for the next 1,000 years? The Citadel's reply arrives 3 weeks later. When fire and ice forge a king, the world does not end. It stops. Arya Stark reached King's Landing disguised as a Lannister servant. She could have killed him, but she hesitated because Jon wasn't guarded by soldiers. He was guarded by the Walker, standing silent in the shadows. Jon sat the Iron Throne the way their father sat in judgment at Winterfell. Tired, dutiful, resolute. I knew you come, he said without turning. You killed Sansa, Arya whispered. Sansa tried to kill me first. She was your sister. Jon's eyes were the color of winter. Was she? She spent years reminding me I wasn't a Stark. She was right. I'm a Targaryen. And Targaryens don't have siblings. They have rivals. Daenerys tried to burn the world out of heartbreak. I'm freezing it out of necessity. There's a difference. Arya stepped closer. Father wouldn't. Father died because he was merciful. Robb died because he was honorable. You survived because you learned to be ruthless. Don't lecture me about Stark values when you read the only one who abandoned them and lived. Arya stopped because he was right. She left King's Landing and rode west, toward the Sunset Sea, toward whatever lies beyond the maps. Tyrion received word the Citadel had been sealed. Every master inside was dead, frozen mid-study. Jon's message was clear. No more record keepers, no more historians. Only the present matters. The last free kingdom was the Vale. Robin Arryn, now a man, watched the Ice Dragon circle below the Eyrie. His advisors begged him to surrender. He refused not because he was brave, but because he understood what the others had not. Jon could freeze armies. He could freeze castles. He could freeze the world. But he could not freeze ideas, and the idea that someone somewhere would eventually find a way to kill him was already spreading. Winter reached the wall, not the natural winter, but Jon's winter. The entire north was frozen permanently, a continent-sized monument to the old world. Winterfell stood encased in ice, preserved exactly as it had been the day Jon left. The lords of Westeros realized too late. Jon wasn't conquering the Seven Kingdoms. He was ending them, replacing them with a single eternal kingdom where nothing changed, nothing grew, nothing died. The Iron Throne wasn't a seat of power anymore. It was a seal, and Jon was the lock. In Essos, a rumor spread. A Red Priestess claimed she had seen Jon Snow's future in the flames. He would rule for 100 years. No sword would kill him. But she also whispered something terrifying. The Night King was killed by Valyrian steel and dragonglass. But Jon Snow is neither White Walker nor Targaryen anymore. He is the space between, and the space between has no weakness. Except one. She never said what it was. Jon Snow sat upon the frozen throne. The Walker stood behind him. The ice dragon coiled around the Red Keep. And somewhere, in a place no raven could reach, someone was already planning how to kill the unkillable king. The age of fire and blood was over. The age of ice and silence had begun. And the only question left was whether anyone would live long enough to see it end.